Okay, so this is recording, answering for Assignment 1-1. The first question is, how has my background influenced how I read the New Testament? My background is I grew up in a Arminian-style evangelical free church, and so when reading the New Testament, it's obviously very Jesus-focused, as the New Testament is. And my church focused on the New Testament almost explicitly from the pulpit and Sunday morning sermons. So pastor didn't really preach from the Old Testament all that much. Really focused on New Testament, a lot of gospel preaching, salvation messages, um, and just very basic. And it wasn't until my late teens, early 20s, when I started going to other churches as a college student, that I began kind of exploring different parts of the Bible and then even looking at the New Testament in regards to the Old. And there's a lot of correlation between the Old and New Testament that I wasn't aware of until some pastors and other people began bringing that to light for me, and then that really changed the way that I looked at the New Testament. Um, so the next question is, what themes, symbols, and/or books do I appreciate the most? Um, I think the books that I appreciate the most are probably Paul's epistles, and I think I appreciate them because the Gospels I feel I know really well, and although they are about the testimony of Jesus Christ and his life and his mission and everything, I almost feel like I know it so well that it's not as important anymore, if that makes sense. Um, but that Paul's epistles and even the letters from Peter um, and Hebrews and such are more applicable to my life now. So when I read, I prefer to look at those when I have questions, when I'm looking for answers, when I'm looking to study about something. Those are usually the books of the Bible that I go to. Um, the idea of Christian living, um, the holy life, the righteous life, what does that look like? Paul talks about that a lot, so that's usually where I go. Which aspects of the New Testament, such as topics or books, do I not pay as much attention to? Yeah, so like I said, the Gospels I think is probably what I skip over, um, just because I'm so familiar with it, and I feel like that's where a lot of people go. There's a lot of parables in there from Jesus that are really easy to preach on, which is a good thing, but I almost feel like it's overemphasized, at least in my church growing up. So in order to find new stuff that's applicable to me in my life where I'm at now, I probably stay away from the Gospels, which probably isn't a good thing, I suppose. Um, so I think that's all. 3 minutes. Yeah, made it. Well, I'm supposed to do 3-5, so I'll do a little bit more, I guess, on these things. Um, So my background growing up was that, but now my background as a 24-year-old has been more eclectic, going to different churches, hearing different people talk, and been enjoying that a bit more. So I guess that background comes from a sense of skepticism, young adult skepticism, and trying to redefine and being open to new ways of reading the New Testament and looking at the New Testament, new understandings of salvation, trying to understand what does the New Testament really say about different parts of doctrine? Where do these ideas come from? Whether it's um, things like, I don't know, I'm blanking right now, but oh, salvation, sanctity of salvation, and whether or not one can lose a salvation or being blotted out of the book of life, sort of thing. Where does that doctrine come from? Why do people argue one way or the other on that? So yeah, I'm interested in finding out more about where those things come from and why my church growing up believes something, but why another church believes something else. Oh, and recently the Holy Spirit, understanding more about the Holy Spirit. That was not talked about at my church at all. Now I'm dating a girl that goes to, well, she doesn't like the word, but charismatic church, which has a lot more Holy Spirit emphasis that at first made me kind of uncomfortable because I wasn't used to it. But the more I read, like the book of Acts, I'm like, wow, the Holy Spirit and the power of the Holy Spirit is talked about a lot here. I should really have a better understanding of that sort of thing. So, yeah, I think I'm excited about this class. I'm excited about getting more into the New Testament and knowing more about why certain doctrines exist, why certain thoughts and opinions are argued one way or the other, and then solidifying that for myself and figure out more about what Pete Westerman's opinions stance on it is. So yeah, I'm excited.